Here we are live back on the B main. It's episode number 5. Crazy to believe, guys, that we're on episode 5. I don't know. It's just crazy to me that we're getting to go into episode 5. We've got a lot of topics to cover tonight. This is literally going to be the Rattler episode. So if you were enjoying the Rattler this past weekend, you are in for a show this episode. Me and Timothy were on the ground the whole race weekend. Timothy was racing. I was doing a lot of photography and media work and helping out the team a little bit. And Gavin was sitting at home. So we'll get into it all.
I had a great time this weekend, guys.
You watched a lot of races this weekend.
I did get to watch a lot of racing, so it wasn't all bad. It was a good race watching weekend, but not as fun as being there on the ground at the track in the race car like the two of you.
Yeah, well, I wish I was in the race car. I cannot tell you how many times this weekend, Timothy will attest to this, how many times I was like, yeah, I race a lot. Don't got the money to real race, though. So we'll just go ahead and jump in. Timothy ran with Augie Grill this weekend, which was so cool, and he'll get to tell y'all about how that was and for him because it was so cool. But I remember, I showed up on Thursday, and Timothy found me, and we walked over the trailer, and Timothy was like, yeah, we got, I'm here in the Super this weekend, like we've talked about. And he was like, I was like, what's the other car? He was like, oh, he brought his pro car. And I was like, oh, Timothy. I was like, someday we gotta get Augie to let me drive his pro car.
Yeah, well, that's not actually Augie's pro car. It's just one that he maintains and keeps.
Okay, bro wants to kill my dreams.
Well, I mean, it Augie keeps it in a shop. I mean, Augie drives it pretty regular. So, but yeah, that's
a wheelchair in my garage. You can drive it.
Oh Lord.
But hey, you never know. But I got there on Thursday. I told Timothy I woke up at 5 a.m. to drive the 5 hours. I told this to my girlfriend. I am not a morning person. I am the worst person about getting up, early or whatever. I'm so bad about going to bed early enough to get up early. But I don't. It doesn't matter how much sleep I get. If you say be up at 7 to be at the racetrack, I am up at 6:30. I am ready to go. Eyes are awake like nothing. I don't know why. It is the only thing, guys, that can get me out of bed.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I struggle to get up at 8 o'clock every morning, but just as soon as Dad comes in my room, tells me, get up, let's go. It's time to go to the racetrack. I'm right up. It doesn't matter what time of the morning is, but yeah, I have the very same feeling that you have about it.
Yeah. Gavin, do you?
No, I have the same thing. You said that, and I thought it was just me that was only a morning person on race weekends.
Literally,
I thought that was just me.
Nope. It's I guess all three of us. So, because getting up for class, thumbs down. Not good. But the racetrack, I was up at I think 8 o'clock every day this week, because I got to stay with Timothy and his family again. I forgot about this. I got to talk to your dad again, Timothy, before we left, and what people don't know about the Watsons is they are very hospitable, and they are awesome. Just but we got to be there Thursday, and I got to meet Augie, and I remember me and Timothy were walking away after I went to the hauler, and I looked over at Timothy, and I was like, I just shook hands and met Augie Grill like it was nothing, and I was kind of in shock.
Yeah, that's something that you get in the racing world pretty often, and sometimes you meet guys like Augie Grill who you don't even know were like Augie Grill.
Yeah. Mr. Grady.
Mr. Grady. Yeah, he hasn't always raced, and he hasn't been a legend because he raced, but you talk to anybody, they know Mr. Grady, and he has a lot of stories about being around the racetrack, and I didn't know that until this weekend, but I've always seen him. I've always talked to him.
Who was he saying that he knew?
Oh, he knew all the racing legends.
That's what I'm.
He knew everybody.
Yeah, he that was, by the way, that was Augie Grill. He was our chef for the weekend, and he's much more than a chef. But man, did he make some mean food, Timothy? We got
Oh
there, and he
Lord,
was like,
hey, he
"Dude, you
kept us
missed."
well fed.
Oh my gosh, never
Well
been that
fed.
well fed at the. We had steaks on race day.
Yeah, we ate steak and asparagus on race day. I have never had that experience before.
Dude, Gavin, like it was so good. And dude, the breakfast sandwiches that we had,
Oh,
oh
unbelievable.
dude, it was white bread with a sunny side up egg, either like bacon, sausage, or sausage links, cheese, and a little bit of mayo. Oh my gosh, I had two every day.
Yeah,
Man, I missed
I
it.
I ate a bunch of them, and I ate a bunch of bacon and a bunch of sausage this
Dude,
weekend.
Timothy, I would look over and he's sitting in the hauler just eating bacon.
Well, because he cooked so much every morning, there was always a tray left, and when you're getting in and out of the car, you don't have time to eat, a full meal, for lunch and everything. So you just go grab a couple pieces of bacon and snack on it, and it keeps you well fed.
Yeah, I mean
Throwing
we
your
had,
bacon through the window of the car under
dude,
your halfway break.
dude, you could literally. That might have revived Timothy's arms.
Yeah, yeah, that might have.
But we had practices that day. So what I was doing there this weekend. I was partially there with Timothy most of the time. I was always around, but I was also doing some offhand work for Liberty Racing Review, and so I got to do photography for them. So I was wearing my highlighter high vis vest all weekend, and Timothy can tell you I was running everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know how you did it. I mean, my feet and back were hurting so bad
Dude.
just from the amount of walking I was doing. I couldn't imagine running back and forth from the hauler to the corners to,
Yeah,
just
because I'd
everywhere
go
you
I'd go to
were.
turn 3, then to turn 1, and South Alabama is interesting because we park on the outside. Haulers on the outside, so I was on the outside of the track a lot of the weekend. But I was saying this: I need to get some legit track day shoes because Converse are not where it's at, Gavin.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know a good shoe
I knew,
recommendation for walking all
knew
day.
you were gonna say something like that. Look, you got rubber on the soles. It doesn't wear on your feet though, so that's nice. I kind of envy you in that regard. There's a guy that shoots. We were talking about it a minute ago, Tyler, and he shoots some photography. He's also wheelchair bound, and he was running around this weekend. I say running, he was wheeling around, and I was like, dang, I kind of wish that was me for a second because my feet hurt. But I'm lucky and blessed to have gotten to run around and do what I got to do for Liberty Racing Review. Because I got to tell y'all, my photography, like my shooting ability, went up and up and up as every day went on. Like Timothy looked at the photos and told me they were pretty darn good.
Yeah, and I feel like that was a big thing for me too, is, working with Augie, my ability as a driver got a lot better, and even just working on cars, the knowledge that he was able to give me is crazy, and I'll forever be thankful for that experience, just because I learned way more than I ever have this weekend alone.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool, like as well to just get to see y'all talk because what I like he was so casual. Like Augie was just like me and him, we chatted just a little. Like race day was our biggest chat. Like I was asking him, like how do you get on race day, and he was telling me, it's different now because I'm so used to being the driver, and he was like, I'd get a little anxious, get a little nervous before getting in, but he was like now. It's a bit different being the crew chief. And it was just cool I told him, I literally said, I hope that Timothy gets to do this again, not only for his sake, but I'll probably be there because I want to pick his brain so bad.
Yeah, I got to do a lot of that this weekend too, and there were times like on Saturday, whenever stuff started going wrong when it shouldn't have been. I was trying to pick Augie's brain about it and see what he thought, and I was kind of stressing out because we had a really fast race car on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then we roll out for the first practice on Saturday, break a bump stick, lose brakes. That all happened within 3 laps, and as a driver, you kind of start stressing about that kind of stuff, and the car's not feeling like it was the day before. And, Augie eventually told me to just shut up and go sit down. He said, the car is going to be good. We're going to have it like you need it. And, that gave me a lot of confidence. And, just him talking to me and calming me down when he needed to was huge.
Yeah, Gavin, I've gotten to see Timothy at a good few races, and it's really different because I was doing a documentary as well. This is my other part of the weekend. I'm in a documentary class right now, and so I was like, I'm gonna do it on Timothy. So I was like shooting Timothy. Timothy's very camera shy, obviously, as we can see. He's not here with a webcam. Don't worry, he'll be with a webcam next week, so he's going to have to face that fear yet again. But this weekend at the track, I was like filming him, like sometimes in secret, and he'd like look over and be like, "Oh no," and see me filming.
Yeah, one time I just got done putting my suit and everything on, and I was going to walk out of the hauler, and Scott's sitting there like halfway trying to hold his phone to where I couldn't see it. But then he starts looking at Mr. Gary, and Mr. Gary starts smiling. So then I look at Scott, and I see the phone, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And yeah, it's fun though.
We have to get a compilation of Timothy running from the camera and get it on our socials.
No, there were times where so I was getting him talking to Augie, I was getting him talking to his dad, I got him talking to some of the team guys, and so there were some times where I'd be across from the car and they're up front or they're near where Timothy had just gotten out of the car talking to Augie about the run, what he was feeling, and they were just kind of debriefing. And I would just get over on the other side, and Timothy would catch my eye and go back to focus on Augie because he'd try not to distract himself. But I was trying to make sure that I wasn't a distraction. But Timothy had given me the okay and all good. But I was trying to be very inconspicuous. But it was hard with a highlighter high vis vest.
Yeah, and there were a lot of times I noticed you, but
Yeah.
it never took my focus away from what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because. Well, I told myself, I just need to suck it up. It's gonna happen.
Hey,
I'm not gonna be able to hide from you forever.
When
so.
you get bigger and better, you'll have more of that. So I'm just getting you used to it. Getting to be a celebrity. That's
Well,
my.
we can only hope for that.
That's my agenda. Just get you used to it. No, but it was cool. I was telling Avery it was the 4 days were just this was one of the perfect race weekends in terms for me. I know everything didn't go exactly according to plan on the racing side, but in terms of we had a ton of things going on. We had Friday, Tristan came in. Tristan is one of Timothy's good buddies, and him and I have gotten to know each other here recently over the past about year. And he came in to race the modifieds, him, his dad, and his brother. And Friday was one of my favorite days. Us three, us four, just getting to chat, mess around. It was so great having them there. I was so excited for Tristan and them to come.
Yeah, and I know we didn't talk about this before, but I think we should discuss the modified race just a little bit.
No, I think so too.
Tristan drove the wheels off of that
Dude,
car.
So
he had everything go wrong that could possibly go wrong, and he still brought home a 7th place finish.
Well,
it was
nice.
Yeah, let me tell you, Gavin, so what was it? Practice. They had 2 practice sessions. Tyler went out in the first practice session. This was Tyler's first ever modified race, and they'd been having some carburetor issues. And so the practices go on. Tyler does the first one. Tristan goes out in the second. They both have their own car, but they just wanted to run different sessions. They didn't feel like they both needed to run both. But they qualify, and we put them down in the grid, down on pit road, and I come over, and this is about 20, 25 minutes before they're supposed to get on the front stretch, and me and Timothy come over, and Tyler and his dad have the hood off. They're messing with the carburetor, and the carburetor was flushing too much fuel into the engine, and so he was losing drive. And so he's good friends with Jake Finch, Tyler and Tristan and their family. And so they let him borrow a carburetor. And so they're replacing this carburetor at way before the race. And Timothy, you had to calm him down.
Yeah, they started, and I know this exact feeling. My dad and I get it all the time, you know. It's you feel like you don't have enough time to get what you need to do done, and you know, it you get really stressed out. You know, my dad and I have experienced it a lot of times, and I saw that, and you know, you're kind of able to step in and help a little bit, not necessarily with what they're doing, but to calm them down, let them know, you know, you still have plenty of time. Uh, and you know, when you start stressing and stuff like that, it just it takes you longer to get stuff done,
Yeah.
because you start fumbling around and everything else. But yeah, it was they managed to get it all put back together just in time, and but
Well,
then
and
Tristan ran into problems shortly after that.
yeah, Tristan, we rolled out to the grid, and what is it? Tyler's dad, Tristan's dad, had come over, and I was getting Tristan. I was helping him out. I was making sure everything was good. I also put the GoPro in the car because I was going to get some GoPro footage of him. And Tristan's dad comes over, and he's like, "Do y'all hear that?" And he's like inspecting the car, and there is a rivet in the right rear tire,
Yeah,
and it was
and
leaking air.
we had to scramble to get another right rear
But it was an
tire
old right
together.
rear.
Yeah,
It was one of,
it was a right rear that they had practiced on and raced on many times. So I mean, it was shot, and
it was
you know,
done.
we had just enough time to get air in it and get it on the car for them to go. We didn't get to stagger it or anything. So
No. Yeah, and it was so talking about all those issues. Tristan goes out there, starts seventh of I believe 15 cars, and I
Mhm.
think Tyler was in the back. Tyler was where pacing, and Tyler later on he told me that new the carburetor has been the problem with that modified, and because he
Mhm.
told he the power he could get to the wheels just from that, he was like, oh my goodness, he was so excited about the race. They put in one lap and he pulled into pit road, and I was like, what's going on? And he told me later on they had this problem before, but the radiator cap blew off, and so he had no water, and so he couldn't run it. So he pulled off lap one.
yeah, and that's you know, the unfortunate thing about racing.
But
Sometimes you just have stuff like that happen.
well, and the
But
thing was, Timothy, I have never like this is how I hope I am when I hopefully get to drive. I have never seen someone with a better attitude. Like
yeah,
he was like, you know, it sucks, but the car is good. We're gonna get to race again. Like
well, and
he was
that's
so
what
up
you
about
get
it.
with the Valdez family. I mean, they're all, you know, whatever life throws at them, they keep a positive attitude about it, and they try and do better the next time. But and it's just like Tristan. You know, he didn't have the best circumstances going into the race, but and even throughout the race, he didn't have great
No.
circumstances, but he
Well, you
stayed
were
with it.
spotting for him.
Yeah, I was on the radio with him, and you know, he didn't ever one time complain about
Mm-mm.
anything that was going on.
No, he
He
just
did the
did it.
best he could.
Well, and
Yeah, he
that's the
just did it.
thing. We talked about the times. Like he was running consistent sixes, and on that tire, he should not have been running sixes. Like he should
No,
have
no,
absolutely been
not at
running
all.
eights at minimum. And so we were talking about he probably there was one driver that was dominating, like absolutely dominating. And I talked to Timothy after the race, and I was like, gotta wonder if you know something was going on. And Timothy told me he was like, well, that's what everyone said about me and the Outlaw.
Yeah, yeah, we had a lot of people saying that we were cheating, but we were the most inspected car in tech
Well, and
every
so
race.
after
So
Timothy told me that, it really put me in perspective, which was really awesome. Of like, you know, it could just be the thing. That guy could be just dominant. And so he led the race, but then second through fourth were right with each other. And then it was two other cars strung out, and then Tristan was running seventh eventually after a few cautions and all this. And we were saying that if he had had that fresh right rear, he definitely would have been somewhere in that battle from second to fourth.
oh yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
He would have been knocking on their door.
But it was really impressive just to see. Then it was cool because Gavin, I don't know if you watched the Baby Rattler
And
125.
I just got to watch the big Rattler on Sunday afternoon.
Okay. But yeah, so then the Valdezes were done. So then it was all of us getting to watch the baby rat. And that was a really fun time for me too, Timothy, because we were just
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
the
for
cautions,
sure.
we would chat, like it was all this stuff, we go back and forth. Like that was just fun being right there on the start finish line.
Yeah, and the Baby Rattler, I mean, it was a good race. I mean, we
I
saw
thought it was really
Roderick
good.
drive from like mid-pack to the lead, and he led a lot of the race.
Yeah.
But we also got to see Jake Finch and Jet Nolan battle it out for a long time.
Yeah. Them three were on another level. They really were.
Yeah, yeah, there
Like
was no other cars touching either of those three cars.
Like Jake is always really good in that pro.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I would say
absolutely.
that is the car for like is one of those cars that almost never goes wrong.
Yeah, yeah, he always runs strong when he gets in that car. Which he started running pretty strong in the super late model as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, he led, a good portion of the race there at the beginning, and then I believe Jet Nolan was able to pass him on the outside on one
yep,
of the restarts. And then next thing we knew, Casey Roderick was there,
yeah.
and
And then Casey led for a long time until him and Jet Nolan had a little bit of contact.
yeah, they had a caution come out, and Uh, Jet was just great on the short run. He was really fast whenever it came to, the first 20 laps of a run. And, I'm not gonna put my opinion out there about what happened, but eventually they got together, and Casey ended up around, and that moved them both back to the back.
Yeah, well, and those were two drivers that absolutely could have won. It opened the doors straight up for Jake, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, Jake wasn't leading. He was had a good car. He wasn't leading, but that's one of the things. Like he was in
Yeah,
position.
he was there. I mean, if he would have been in fourth, then he would have, he wouldn't have been in that position to
Right,
to inherit the lead. And another thing you have to look at is how dominant he was at the beginning of the race.
right.
I mean, and not just that, last year he dominated this race. So,
Yeah,
if one win just gets handed to you like that, then, it's pretty well deserved.
yeah. I mean, it was a dominant win. It was cool because the next morning, Stephen Nassy finished, what was it, third. And the next morning, I got to interview him, Gavin, which I thought was really fun.
Yeah, those yeah, actually you can go find those interviews on Scott's Instagram. They're also on Liberty Racing Reviews Instagram. So if you want to go watch those, I got to watch them. They're really good interviews. It's really awesome that your career is getting to the point that you're starting to want it to be at. And I think you have some other big news. Maybe you can share. I'm not sure if you're
Well, I
supposed to.
cannot share yet.
Yeah, okay. Scott's got
So
some things potentially.
potentially, when the news is public, I will share, but I am not yet at liberty to say the news. But Liberty Racing View was definitely very good to me this weekend, and it was fun because Timothy said it earlier, like and I've known it getting to be around in the garage, but this weekend when I was talking about it being really one of those just perfect race weekends for me, like I got to interview Nassy, and that was fun because I do racing broadcast 5 out of 7 nights of the week, and we interview drivers at the end. So I've had a lot of interview practice, and it was cool to get to interview drivers in person for the first time, even if it just was, on my phone, but like it was awesome. Like it was so much fun. I got to talk to Bubba Pollard just like casually on Saturday night because after the race, they decided to move it to Sunday because of a lot of potential weather. I know that a lot of us got hit by it, but Saturday we clowned around a little bit and we played, what was it? I think it's basically called left, right,
Left, right,
center.
and center. Yep,
Yeah.
that's what it was called.
We played in the hotel lobby for like 3 hours, and what was it? We played with Bubba Pollard, Michael Hind, both of their crews, and a few other drivers were in and around the lobby all night long. And I was telling Timothy, I was like, I think this is one of the coolest things about racing that doesn't happen with any other sport. Everyone here is competing against each other in the weekend, but yet here we are all hanging out together, having camaraderie, just having some fun.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about racing, because there's some drivers who you don't like and who don't like you, especially once you put the helmet on. But at the end of the day, most of us can still come together and have good times like that. And you hear some of the older people around talk about the stories that they have at the racetrack, and especially like what we done on Saturday night, where they just all hang out and just have a good time. But you kind of think, oh well, those days are gone. You're never going to see that again. And then next thing you know, you're hanging out in the hotel lobby in Andalusia, Alabama, with a bunch of race car drivers playing a dice game. I mean, it's just really cool.
Well, and I mentioned that to you that night, and I was like, yeah, this has got to happen somewhat regularly. And you were like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever experienced that. And maybe that's just because, most of the places we go, you don't have most of the drivers staying in the same
I was going to
hotel.
say, like, this is one of those special circumstances, like what? For the snowball, we had an Airbnb. A lot of people have something like that. But I
Yeah.
think with South Alabama being a little bit more, what is it? Kind of in the middle of nowhere,
Rural.
really.
Yeah,
Rural. There we
there's
go.
nothing
Rural is a
around.
better word.
There's a lot of cows around, and that's about
Everyone
it.
was at the same hotel.
Yeah.
But I thought it was so much fun. Like that, Friday night was awesome. Us getting to be at the Baby Rat, hang out with Tristan all day. Then Saturday was good at the latter half of the day.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
first part of the day was not so fun.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's let's explain what went on there.
Well, I mean that was the practice session. Augie was like, I don't know if I want to go out, but he made the decision to go out.
Yeah.
And what was it? Did y'all break? What was it you broke?
Well, pulling out of the pits.
Yeah.
So at first we didn't have a turning stop on the car, so you could turn the wheel until something would break. And pulling out of the pits, I think I turned the wheel just a little too far right, and I heard a little pop, but somebody said that it was just the rear tire slipping. And we go out on track, and I make a couple laps, and the car was bottoming out real bad. Something wasn't right, and I was about to come in, and I go off into 3, and I have no brake pedal. So we get back in, and what happened is I when I turned too far to the right, it broke the right front bump stick. And after riding for a couple laps like that, it knocked the brake hose off. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier whenever I said, Augie eventually had to just calm me down and tell me to go sit down somewhere and quit worrying about it. But it's just something that happens. But then even in qualifying, we didn't have the best qualifying effort. I would have
your
to
worst
say
to date.
It was my worst to date. We qualified dead last. Yeah, I was not doing the number 112 any justice there, but you have problems sometimes, and you don't find them until after you run. So
Yeah, it was definitely one of those days of trying to get. I don't know. I was talking to you after, and I was trying to not cheer you up isn't the right word, but just kind of, you're not too bad about getting in your own head. You're definitely, especially when it comes to driving, good about finding positives while still being honest with yourself. And so that day, we were all talking about. I think I said to Mr. Randy, I said, we're race car drivers. We'll find a silver lining about anything.
yeah, and it helps to have a good support group there at the track, because well, like you said, being honest with yourself that's a big thing for me. I don't like to have excuses, I guess. I like to know what the problem was, and I want to fix it.
Yeah.
And that goes back to whenever Augie had to just tell me to go sit down, because I'm sitting there trying to figure out the problem when he already knows what the problem was. And I start stressing him out and everything else. But then after he told me to go sit down, and he talked to me a little bit after that, and you had talked to me, and everybody talked to me, and just let me know, everything's gonna be good. The car is gonna be good. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. And that's a really big thing.
Well, and while you had your moments, like I was telling your dad, I've never seen you this calm at the racetrack, and it was just because A, there are a lot of people around you, but B, like you and me talked about it. You're a family-run team, but this weekend you didn't really have to touch the car ever, which is very new to you.
Yeah, that's something I've experienced it once before at the World Crown 300 last October, I believe it was,
Oh
when I
yes.
raced for Ben Kennedy. They let me work on the car, but I didn't have to. So, I'm so used to working on the car that I'm just there, and they never told me, go sit down, rest up. But with Augie, it was more like, don't worry about what's going on over here. You go worry about what you need to do. So
Yeah.
that was pretty huge.
Well, and I think goes back to what helped you learn. He
Yeah,
was like, "Don't think it. How the car works. Like you have worked
yeah,
on your own car. Like this car in and out. Like you could know the changes of your mind, but it allowed you to say, "Hey, here's what we did. Here's why we did it. Here's what you now need to do as a driver to improve on those things or whatever."
yeah. And well, it was a really good learning experience for me, even though we didn't have the best run in the race. And I'm gonna blame a lot of that on myself. I got tired. I mean, that's the only way to put it. My arms just got tired, and I couldn't turn the wheel like I needed to.
Yeah. Well, it was a different steering box for you.
Yeah.
I know that
And
was part of it. That was part of it.
that was a little bit of it, but I have to be ready for situations like
That's
that,
true.
because
That's
Augie's
true.
always run with that kind of stuff. I mean, he's won races with that exact same setup. So
Yeah.
I can't blame it on that.
No,
I
no.
just I need to be more prepared next time.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, Gavin. Me and Timothy called me when I was leaving, or I guess I was halfway home, and we were talking about it because he was like, Scott, my arms are like jello.
Yeah, they were rough.
But let's get to the race because you started 21st, started in the back, and you were telling me, it's all kind of a blur to you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's how most races go for me. I don't know if any other driver has that experience, but I don't remember a lot of the in-betweens. And I
I
don't
get that though.
and it's I don't know why that is. I don't know if my mind is just fully on getting the car around the track and not as much on, what's happening around me, but yeah, I tend to not necessarily forget what happened, just more when it happened. So, like, just different cautions and stuff. I don't quite remember that kind of stuff, but
Yeah. Well, I
Mhm.
was I was around the inside of the track pretty much the whole time, and Gavin, this is where you can probably jump back in, just talking about the race itself. I mean, talk about that spin, literally on the opening lap down into turn one on the opening.
Yeah, I thought we done got.
Timothy
I mean,
was close.
that
yeah,
I watching on my TV. I'm sitting in my room. I see smoke. I see cars going every direction, and I see this little white flash of a race car just split the gap. Looks like something out of a battle scene from Star Wars almost, just flying right through the middle.
Yeah, I saw that. I was in turn one, so I was right there watching it, and I saw Timothy start to woe up, and I was pretty sure we were going to be fine, but I was worried Casey was going to roll back down the track,
Mhm.
and so because what was it? Who was it? Who was it that got into Pollard and
Just, uh,
and
I
Roderick?
believe it was the '08 car.
Okay,
I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think there was a stack up on the bottom.
There was well, everyone was going for the bottom. The
Well, there was
bottom.
a stack. There was a stack up on the bottom, and I think Pollard checked up, and the car behind him didn't check up like he needed to, and that's what kind of caused the spins.
Well, and that's one thing that got you the whole race that I noticed, Timothy. Besides physical exertion and things like that, it was you really getting stuck on the outside on restarts.
Yeah, there was one restart, and I believe it was the restart right after I'd gotten tired.
Yeah, because Augie was talking about
I just
you leaving a car length.
Yeah, he got on to me. There were a couple times during the race he got on to me. But
What did he say? What was the quote he said?
I can't remember exactly, but it was something along the lines of, okay, Jello, or what was it? Okay, Noodle Arms.
Yeah.
Just drive the car. And this was, I believe that was right before that last restart with like 15 to go.
Yeah.
And just having that, having somebody like that tell you something like that, it gets to you a little bit, and it makes you not worry that your arm is killing you and that you can barely move it. I mean, it just makes you drive the car.
Yeah. Well, and that, like, you definitely were able to hold position there on that last run. There was a lot going on in front of you. Obviously, the biggest thing was that Michael Atwell led every single lap in the Rattler 250. First driver to ever do that. And we were talking, Atwell, obviously you got to give him credit. Absolutely dominated the race. But we will say, as a viewer and someone who's kept up with the series, we have never seen him do a thing like that before.
Yeah, it was, and it's cool to see somebody do something like that too. Even though it wasn't you, and you're watching it from 8th place, it's cool to see somebody lead every single lap of a race that it's never been done before at. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah,
and
Corey.
I mean, from my perspective, this was my introduction to Michael Atwell as a driver, so I know nothing about his reputation or history. So I go into a race with an unknown, and I see some of the other, bigger names in the field. Your Bubba Pollard, Casey Roderick's a pretty big name in the super late model world. Of course, yourself,
Nassy, who actually qualified well for once.
Yeah, Stephen Nassy, Corey Hall, who we kind of got introduced to at the World Series
Asphalt,
and his success there. So see Michael Atwell, a driver I have no experience at all with, go out and just destroy the field, to say that was impressive to me, and it kind of makes you want to focus on his career more and just learn more about his career, I guess.
Yeah, and all respect to him, because they went out there and did what a lot of people probably wouldn't have expected. He was quiet all week through the practices. Nobody was thinking about it, and then boom, goes out there, qualifies on pole with an extremely fast time, and then dominates the race. But going back, it didn't even register during qualifying, but I remember we were getting ready for the race, and I was like, wait a second, Nassy's on outside pole. Because if anyone knows Stephen Nassy, he himself he said, I'm a terrible qualifier all the time. And it's crazy because it did not register with me. I was like, oh, he's on the outside of the front row.
Yeah, you don't normally see that out of Nassy either.
No.
He's normally, mid-pack, normally outside of the top 15.
Like how he was in the Rattler.
About. Yeah, he's normally outside of the top 15 for qualifying, and I guess he just put a lap together.
Well, and it worked out in his favor because, again, through my interviews, he told me that they had missed it on the Pro Late model and the Super. Like, he was like, we do not have the car. But the key, I will say, one of the biggest key things here to the Rattler of the on Sunday was track position. I mean, track position was key because everyone was so fast and so close together that it was so difficult to make passes.
Yeah, and you put 21 cars on the track that could win the race.
They were like, it was a very even field.
Yeah, I mean, I think at one point.
Yeah,
go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah, it was a deep field from my point of view. As not somebody who watches a ton of super late model racing. I recognized a large chunk of the names in that field from the front to the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at one point, Augie was telling me, every car on track is running within a tenth of each other, and this was like after a long run, and you do not see that often.
No.
Mhm.
I mean,
Which
that's
is
like
it was
that's like
so
derby
weird to me.
fields.
Like
Yeah,
it was so weird.
yeah, and you know, th- when you start getting tired, well, I guess something I struggled with is when every car is that close on track and you start getting tired and you start, missing the bottom here and missing the bottom there, it really you really suffer from it because, somebody who's less than a tenth slower than you can still get to your inside. So
Well,
it's
and you were at one point before a caution came out, you were holding off like 5 cars in a line. Do you
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
that?
there was a lot of that happening because well, and not just me getting tired, I was dealing with brake issues at the same time.
Yeah.
Uh, Augie said that one of the left front pads was completely gone. It was just metal on metal at that point,
Oh.
and I was just struggling with brake issues, and that's another thing Augie was able to coach me through and help me through was, when the brakes started going out, he would tell me do this, this, and this, and normally after 5 laps, I would have brakes again, and yeah, so that when you lose brakes going off into a corner and you miss the bottom, then 2 or 3 cars get by you.
Yeah. Well, and you got through that. I think you made contact with one of the 33s because there was I don't know, it was kind of behind you, but he came up the track and got into your left front and you got quite sideways. You also got into it a little bit with the one.
Yeah, that was
Did you see
that
that,
was an
Gavin?
interesting deal.
I saw the first one you were talking about when Tim got very sideways.
Yeah, that was I forget which 33 that was, but
It
that was strictly a
was
racing
not
deal.
Dustin
There was
Smith. It was the other guy.
no, it was oh gosh, I've talked to him so many times. I don't know why I can't think of his
I
I was
name.
remember.
saying
I remember the incident now because I sent the video. I was recording a Snapchat on my phone. I sent it to our good friend Drew, and I sent it to him. And what's funny is right after that, the announcer pretty much blamed it a little bit on you. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to put the blame on either driver there. It was
Yeah,
Yeah, we
no.
just
racing
we
deal.
just got
And
together.
the announcer was like, I'm going to say that one's on a little more on Watson. I'm like, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It was
I
just
don't
kind of a funny little moment with the announcer there to me.
yeah, and sometimes they see it from a different point of view than we
Mhm.
do. So,
Well, I can tell you
but
that. I can
yeah, it's a lot different from, sitting in the tower watching it versus what's actually happening on track. But there were absolutely no hard feelings with him, and I hope the same goes for him. But yeah, we just got together. I got sideways, and I lost a couple spots. But
yeah. Well, and then you got into it with the one.
yeah, that was a different deal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still
Yeah.
no hard feelings towards him. I mean, I don't know why
It
he
was
raced me the
hard
way he did,
racing.
but it happened. There's no point in tearing up race cars over it, but yeah, I got under him. I felt like I got under him pretty clean, and he just kept crowding me down the track, just dooring me down the track, and eventually he was able to get me loose enough that off of 2, he was able to pull me a little bit, and then coming off of 4, he decided that he wanted the line, and I was still there, and he turned himself around.
Yeah. Well, and that was one thing. At one point, I told you I thought that you had gotten him. I know that you're a driver that wouldn't do that intentionally. So I was like, there's got to be a story here because I saw him
Mhm.
crowding you down. Like Gavin, I was in turn 3 at that point, and I was watching him. I was like, that one is pinching him off of turn number 2 because I was like, the run he was able to get. I was like, I know he is driving down.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
broadcast wasn't. I didn't get to see what led up to the incident. They just showed it like right before the incident happened. I guess they panned to it because they knew there had been a little bit of
Well, because
bump.
dude,
bumping and shoving before the
Going
incident. It was one of those things that I was like, there definitely had to be something leading up to that.
looking back now, I know it was the one coming down a little bit, but
Mhm.
from turn 3, there was like in the center of South Alabama Speedway, there's a I imagine it's what their old tire barn was. It's just their building down there. And so like right when you're exiting turn 4, that building cuts off your view. And I saw them going out of 4 and I was like, something's about to happen. And then I see the one spinning, caution lights come out and I was like, "Yep, I knew it." And so I would Timothy, you had to go to the back for that, right?
Yeah, I did. Anybody who's involved in a caution has to go to the rear.
I was worried
and
about the one racing you dirty in the back.
Yeah, I was worried about it
That's what I
too,
was worried
but
about.
I hope that he realized his mistake there, and I think he did, just because he could have easily just run me over and wrecked me.
That's
We'd have
what
been
I
out
was
of the
worried
race,
about.
but he after that I didn't have any other problems with him, so I feel like there was a little bit of respect gained there, um, on both ends. I respected the way that he didn't try and retaliate for something that I felt like was his fault, and I hope that he respected the way that I was racing him.
Yeah. Well, because, I mean, again, from your perspective, he's pinching you down, so you're going to try to crowd him on exit, and you were still there.
Yeah.
So, but I know that it was so interesting for me to be watching around the track because, Gavin, you mentioned it, the different perspectives. Like, I missed about every wreck. Like, I saw the initial one into turn number 1, and then that one with Timothy. The only other one I saw was actually the one that took out Michael Heim when the 44 blew up. Well, and he was blowing up for like 5 laps, right, Timothy?
Yeah, well, I believe it was the rear end that come apart. Because I was I was right behind him.
He was
I
smoking
think
bad.
Yeah, I think there were two cars in front of us, and I come over the radio and I said, the 44 is blowing up, and my spotter said, he thought it was a tire rub, but he couldn't see what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was I saw some flames coming out from underneath the car, and there was smoke pouring out from both of the rear tires, but we I was being cautious at that point because I knew something was about to happen, and
Well, and
we
you
rolled
almost got
off a
into it.
4. Yeah, I hit the oil and I couldn't stop, but I managed to get it woed up about a foot from cleaning out Michael Hind. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know how you got that car stopped.
Well, because he
It
didn't
was
lock it
not easy.
down.
Yeah, at first when I got on the brakes, it locked the front tires up. I was sliding, so I just rolled out of the brakes and eased into them and just hoped for the best. I mean, I was being cautious because I knew something was about to happen.
Mhm.
But when you're being cautious, especially with a field like we were in, you can't give up anything. So you're just trying to watch out and hope for the best. And coming up off a 4, I saw a big fireball come out from underneath the car, and he got turned, or he spun out. I'm assuming over his own oil, and the two cars that were between us spun, which one of them was Michael Hind. I'm not sure who the other was,
I don't
but
remember.
I tried to turn down to the bottom at first because they kind of kept it up towards the top of the track, but I was in the oil. I mean, I couldn't go anywhere. But yeah, it was definitely scary. And Augie said that he couldn't believe that we didn't get into that because there was only one way to get out of it, and I guess it was just get it woed up without locking up and sliding into Michael Hind.
I was right there on the front stretch, so I watched it all unfold. Actually, I had my camera. I jammed my film camera because I was trying to get to it so fast because I wanted it on my film camera because it was a perfect shot, and I'm so mad I didn't get it. But by the time I'd gotten my digital out because my film was jammed, everyone started moving, and I was like, "Dang it!" So I was upset I missed that. But it kind of reminded me of what happened to Rafe on the night prior because it was a not an identical spin out, but he spun out on the front stretch over oil.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing that I forgot to talk about. Rafe,
Dude,
I don't know how he
the
kept it out of the wall.
us three over the weekend. That was so much fun. Us getting to hang out.
Yeah, yeah, and Rafe has been one of my longtime buddies.
I
You
think me
know,
and him clicked like that.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
and
because we
Rafe's one
realized
of
we
those
raced
guys.
area together.
Yeah, and he's just one of those guys that's easy to talk to. I
Yeah,
mean, he's just a good guy, and
yeah.
yeah, it just I still can't believe he kept it out of the wall, and I'm glad he was safe after that wreck. Or
If no
well,
one
he
else
did.
saw, he got on fire.
Yeah, he didn't wreck. He just caught on fire. I mean, the whole car was a fireball for about 2 seconds, and
And then the
thankfully it went out.
ATV comes over and flips over the ATV in turn two. Did you see that, Gavin?
What was that video? That was at the
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I saw it on Instagram. I didn't realize that was there.
Yes.
The truck, not the ATV, the truck that tipped.
Well,
Or was it
it
an
was
ATV?
technically okay. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's
Side
like
by side.
yes,
Okay,
that
I
was
got
it.
Yeah, I saw the video. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was what would happen, and it was crazy. I think I remember this. The announcers said he was. I think they were like he was trying to be a hero or something like that, and get over to that. But yeah, I think it was so great to be able to get to see Rafe, keep it out of the wall on the front
Yeah,
stretch and then get out of the car.
I thought for sure he had backed it into the wall. The car was going to be pretty hurt, but and this is something I heard. Whenever the car was sideways, I mean, just he was scraping the wall at this point. He was able to throttle up and keep it out of the wall, and
It was
that was pretty
when he
impressive.
told us that he didn't even remember doing it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's something that drivers just instinctively do. Like
Yeah,
it's at that point you're not thinking, you're just doing.
yeah. Well, and it was impressive, but we got everything done on Sunday, and then you were exhausted. I've seen you
Yeah.
exhausted after. I think the only time you were probably more exhausted was after. Was it the World Crown 300? It was some race at Cordell.
Oh, the August race at Cordell.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a rough one on me.
But I think this
you
was
know,
probably one of the most tired I've ever seen you.
yeah, this was a different exhaustion than I had
Yeah.
then. Then it was heat. This time it was just strictly my arms. After that race I started going to the gym pretty regular. But something I never expected was, having to train with weights.
Yeah.
Because it's just differences between cars. My car, I have never experienced my arms getting tired like that. You know, then I just got too hot. I hadn't been in a car for 7 months, no, 6 months.
Yeah.
And it was 100 degrees outside. My helmet fan quit working. Well, it wasn't my helmet fan quit working. It was a piece of rubber jumped up in the tube, so I wasn't getting any air at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a long race for me. But that you can't give up in situations like that, because that was my best finish to date in a super late model.
Yeah.
Just because, I told Dad, I said, I'm not getting out of this car unless y'all drag me out because I passed out. And, we managed to work through that. And I guess it was 13 to go, I restarted 8th and drove to 3rd. And yeah, but this time it was just my arms, they just give slap out, and I couldn't stay on top of the wheel.
Yeah. Well, and I was like, that's one thing. Again, my experience is all through iRacing, but I live pretty regularly, and I turn my steering up when we do our league races, because I don't get that real feel of the car, because my mom talked about it. An arm workout back in the day was driving the car, because it didn't have power
Yeah.
steering. Obviously, the race cars even now have power steering, but I turn mine up on the wheel so I can get that full force and work my wrist and my delts and all that. But I was saying to you after the race, I was like, obviously you're going to talk to someone way more professional than me, but I was like, we'll get you on a workout plan.
Yeah, and that's something else I told Augie. I mean, I pretty much made a promise with him.
You
This
did.
will not
I
happen
was there.
again. This will not happen again. And it was a very embarrassing moment for me as a driver, just because, I mean, we had a top 5 car there at the end of the race, and we didn't have a top 5 driver.
Yeah.
So that was a low moment for me, but I'll come back better.
Yeah, it's so cool to be able to see you rebound, because a lot of drivers would get down on themselves like so bad, but I love that you're able to rebound. Gavin, your final overall thoughts on the weekend as a outward perspective viewer.
My only comment I have to add is I am so jealous and mad that I wasn't there. And I also hate that last weekend, me and Timothy actually almost made plans to get to meet each other for the first time. Five
Dude.
flags at a open practice. I happened to be in town in Pensacola for a college basketball game, and Mother Nature decided to have other plans.
Yeah, that we were gonna get to go test the outlaw and everything, and Gavin just so happened to be in Pensacola, but it rained all day Sunday and we didn't get to
When
go.
it rains, it pours.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah. And
this
what's
weekend
funny
Rattler.
about that? What's funny about that is my cousin was just about, I guess he was about 2 miles north of the racetrack, all day, and he said they didn't get a drop of rain.
That's
So
crazy.
that makes me jealous.
We got a bunch of rain on the beach there in Pensacola. It flooded the roads in Pensacola Beach. I don't know about downtown or over by the racetrack, but
I can tell you here at home in Panama, it flooded. There was a temporary pond in my yard.
Well, before we move on from the Rattler, there's one piece of news. We should have talked about it at the start, but I completely forgot. And me and Timothy, Gavin, he was like, "Oh man, this past 2 weeks have been pretty dry in terms of racing." And me and Timothy said, "Oh, you don't know what happened at the Rattler." And we just got to hear a lot of insider news. Probably the biggest piece of news that everybody was talking about in the garage was that everyone that watched the race knows that Bubba Pollard was in the 23 that Billy Van Meter runs. He is now, at least, he sold all his Seneca stuff. He sold it all, and he ran with Van Doren at the race, but he is no longer working with Seneca.
Oh,
Yeah,
is there anything that led up to that, or was it just a spur of the moment deal, you think?
I really don't know. I don't think anybody except for Bubba himself knows the deal behind that, because Bubba's worked with Seneca for a long time and he's had a lot of success there. But a couple years back,
I feel like we've had discussions, just the three of us, on kind of their partnership being one of the most tight partnerships in super late model racing.
Yeah, and a couple years back, Bubba migrated from the Seneca. He went to Van Doren. He didn't have the success that he wanted, and shortly after he went to Port City, where he still struggled, and eventually he came back to the Seneca, and he had, these past 2 or 3 years, he's won everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know what made this move happen, but we'll find out soon, and we'll see how Bubba does in it.
Yeah. Well, and he did not have the run he wanted at the Rattler. They went out. I can't remember what the issue was, but they were struggling with quite a few issues in that 23. But I asked him. It was after the race was done. Timothy, you had already left with Emily, and he was out in the parking lot about to get ready to leave. And I just went up to him and I was talking with him, and I shook his hand because I had never got to introduce myself the night that we played left, right, center. So I wanted to get my name in his head. He's going to forget, but I just wanted to say my name. But I was asking him about Pensacola this upcoming weekend because ASA is running at Pensacola. And I was like, what's your plan? I know you're running with Van Doren right now, and I know that you've sold some stuff, and he was like, we're running our own car. So he's running his own personal car this weekend at Pensacola. So I'm excited to see how that runs and how he's going to go. And what is it? Mr. Grady will actually be over there with them this time.
Yeah, yeah. That's a neat deal with Mr. Grady is he gets people who wants him to come cook for him, and
I don't know who wouldn't want him to cook for him.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think everybody was jealous of us this weekend.
Dude, oh my gosh. We had ribs, we had chicken, green beans, we had the steaks, we had fried catfish, we had the breakfast sandwiches. Dude, Gavin, it was like
You're naming
gourmet.
all my favorite foods, dude.
Dude,
Yeah,
it was like
you're sitting here with like
and
barbecue, fried
what's
fish, steak, and I'm over like,
what's funny is Wednesday night after we practiced, Augie and the whole crew went out to eat at the local steakhouse there in Andalusia, and the steak I had on Sunday was way better than the steak that I had at the steakhouse.
yeah, dude, oh my gosh, that steak was amazing.
Yeah.
He marinated it for like 4 days.
Yeah.
Because he talked
he
about
said that he just
he
threw
talked
them in a
about-
bag with
he-
some random stuff. And
Well, he talked about the steak all weekend, and I remember it was before we rolled the car to Tech, and he said something about it again, and Augie was like, "Oh, you're finally cooking them? You've been talking about them all weekend."
yeah.
And it was funny. But look, that was one of the best race weekends I've ever had to date. Just in terms of experience, and I talked about getting to meet so many people and us getting to work with Augie and the crew, and I hope that we get to do it again.
Yeah, I think the possibility for that is high. And I don't know what Augie's thinking, but I sure hope that he wants to have me back.
So moving on, I guess we'll go into our dirt section led by Gavin.
Well, Scott, it's funny that you're going to pitch it back to me because the dirt section actually has a lot to do with you because you got to go to your first ever World of Outlaws show at Magnolia Speedway.
First ever
last
dirt
week.
show.
First ever dirt show. What was that like? And did you bring your goggles?
Dude, okay, so yes, I did. Well, okay, they weren't exactly goggles. So at first, my fraternity, we had like a ski party like a few weeks ago. And so I had these like really, really cheap ski goggles. And those were fine. But I left them at home. Because I left them on the counter. I was getting ready to go and I left them on the counter. And I was like, crap. But I had these like dad sunglasses. And so I just like pressed them into my face. So it worked. Now, for the future, I would want something clear because they were tinted. So I couldn't really see amazingly because the lights weren't great. But like it worked. But I was getting dirt in my eyes up until that point. And so you were absolutely right about dirt. I actually told my girlfriend and my friends the story because I brought my girlfriend and my friends who one of my friends is he likes racing. He's not as into it as us anywhere near, but he likes it and he was excited about it. But my other friend like cares nothing about it. And so first of all, like we got there and like they're all asking me and I'm like, I mean, I've never been here. Like we're just gonna. They were like, "What's up?" I was like, we'll figure it out. Like we'll figure it out." Like they were all kind of stressing, and I was like, it's the track. We'll figure it out." And we got in. It was a bit of a higher price rate than I thought, but it was worth it. It was worth it. But the bank felt it. But we got in. It was supposed to rain, and so I was so concerned and worried that it was going to get rained out because like. There's no other dirt race I could really go to. Like, I could go to their weekly races, but I was like, I want to see this World of Outlaws show because we just started talking about it. I know.
Outlaws. I mean, you gotta go see the Outlaws when the Outlaws are in town.
I know. So we did that. We found our seats. One thing I didn't know that I know for next time is like we could have brought like lawn chairs.
Yeah, and sit anywhere.
I didn't know that. We just sat on the concrete because I didn't know we could bring lawn chairs or something. So that's one thing I learned. But we started getting the cars on track, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome! Like this is great." And my buddies, we were all talking, and they liked it, and we were around, and I was asking them, I was messing with them, I was like, "All right, how is it? How do you feel? Like all this stuff?" And they were like, "Yeah, this is cool." Like, and so the World of Outlaws race like went on. David Gravel led flag to flag. I mean, he dominated, like absolute domination. He set a track record, 4th fastest time in a row, and my friends were like, "God, this guy's fast," and I was like, "Yeah, he is like he's dominating." And because the track record got set 4 times that night, because the track had grip. Like, it was impressive. But all my friends, like, they were asking me questions. They were like, why is he doing that? And I was, like, explaining how the track slicks up, all this other stuff. And I was like, see how the wheel moves so much? They're making all these micro adjustments. It was really cool because my girlfriend, her dad, he used to race a little, but she had never been to a race because he raced when he was young. But so this is her first time, too. And the race went on. The race was great. I loved it. I forgot my earmuffs, so I had to plug my ears a little bit. I know a lot of people that go to racetracks. They whatever. But I know that when I'm 80, I want to hear. I still want to be able to hear. So I care about my hearing. I know Timothy doesn't.
Yeah, that's my thing. I don't need earplugs because I've lost enough hearing from being around the racetrack so long that it just doesn't even bother me anymore. But
now,
I have started to notice that my ears ring for the next 2 or 3 days after a race. So
for me, it depends on what cars are on track, on how much hearing protection I wear. I mean, the way the new NASCAR Cup cars are, I gotta wear earplugs. But if I'm at a dirt track, I'm usually good just going out there with nothing, which is a terrible idea. If you're a kid listening to this, please wear earplugs.
Yes,
please do.
Wear earmuffs. Absolutely.
But sometimes you'll catch me a lot of the times half on, half off. Like, that's what I'll do, because I'll face, like, I did it this weekend at the Rattler. Like, I would face the side of my head that was, like, normally to the cars with the earmuff on, and the other side with off, because undoubtedly we love the sound of race cars. Like, there is no – if you love racing – there is no other feeling than getting to hear cars on track. Like, when I got to the track, like getting to hear the sprint cars like gear up and go, I was like, yes, like, this is it. I've made it. And it was so great. And my friends were like, oh, this is so cool. And so anyway, the race went on. It was 35 laps. It was great, flag to flag. It rained a little during one of the practices, but it went away. And we were so lucky to get everything in. And we were saying, because we were going to wait for the local races because they were going to run their limited late models. And it eventually got rained out. But we were leaving, and I asked my friends, and I was like, how was it for y'all? Avery, obviously my girlfriend, was like, yeah, it was fun. Like, she was getting tired. She was getting sleepy. So I told her we'd go on and get her to bed. But my other friends, my buddy who likes racing, obviously I knew he was going to like it. And he was like, dude, that was so cool. We've got to come back. But my other buddy I was really curious about, his name is Cam, and because he doesn't really care about it, and he was like, dude, 10 out of 10. Like, he was like, that was so cool. And it really made me think about, like, how many people there are out there that might believe, oh, racing's whatever, like, it's boring, all this stuff. And, like, I can understand that from her perspective watching it on TV. And my friend, like, I've loved racing for 8 years now. And so I've known him for longer than I've liked racing, before I really understood what it was. And so he's heard me talk about it all these years. So he was reluctant to go, but I did not expect him to react the way he did. Like, he was like, I was like, would you want to come back? And he was like, absolutely. He was like, it was awesome. And it just reminded me of how many people, like, might throw racing out because they're like, oh, that's boring. But if they just give it a chance, they could find something new that they like.
I mean, there is nothing. One of my favorite things over the past few years that I've figured out I love, taking people who have never been to a racetrack might actually.
I want to do it more now.
It might be the thing that's brought me the most joy in the past half decade, even. Just bring people that have never even thought about racing at the racetrack and just seeing the way their eyes light up the first time a field full of cars drives by them.
Dude, when they went for the 4 wide salute and fireworks were going off, my buddies were like,
yes,
jaw dropped.
And Could you hear the announcers during the 4 wide salute?
Yes,
How iconic is that? The first time you get to hear it,
dude. They were like, what is this? And I was like, oh,
it's his
oh.
thing.
I was like, so it was really cool. Like for me, obviously a 10 out of 10, and I want to go to some more stuff for sure, because it's cool. Because for years I didn't know that track was there, because like there is not a lot of stuff in Mississippi. There really isn't. There's nothing in asphalt, but there is dirt stuff, and so like I like dirt, not as much as I love asphalt. But like
Mhm.
it's cool that there is stuff around me, like that I
Yeah.
can feasibly go to.
Yeah, and I'm gonna agree with you 100%. I just drove through Mississippi last week. There's nothing there.
No, there is. Now, why do
There
you
are
think?
really
Why do
rough roads, though.
dude? Oh,
The roads
I
are
live in
terrible.
Jackson. It's awful. Look,
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Why do y'all think I'm trying to get out of there after
It's like
college?
driving on a washboard.
It's so bad.
Yeah, I also drove like half a mile from Scott's house on that.
Yeah,
trip,
and
too.
you didn't stop.
Hey, we were in a hurry to get home. My
For
mother
what?
my mom was missing her grandkids,
Bruh,
and I don't know if you've ever been around a grandparent that's missing their grandkids.
bruh. I
It's
wanted
frank.
you to text me and say, "Oh, dude, we should meet up while I'm coming through," and you just said, "Oh, that's cool," and kept on driving.
I was not the one driving. I would have stopped. I would have stopped. I was not the one driving. I was just along
Okay.
for the ride.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hey,
Bros,
you wouldn't have been-
buddy is making excuses.
Yeah, oh, I'm making big time excuses. You would have been happy to see me because Arkansas State lost in the finals, so I was still salty that day
Oh,
anyway.
that's a good point. You make a good point. We'll
You would've
make it
been like,
happen.
This guy's not near as fun as I thought he'd be. You'd have been like, "What's his deal?"
But no, my experience was awesome, and it was cool to see the people I brought have fun too. Like it wasn't just
Mhm.
me having a good time and being like, and they were just there. Like they had fun.
Yeah, you're making me look so forward to the next time I get to go to the racetrack because I'm sitting here and it's been a whole off season. So
Dude, I had 2 weeks in a row.
and you had 2 weeks in a row, and I'm sitting here just like I'm chomping at the bit to get to a racetrack and just hear that sound of a car fly by.
Yeah, dude, it oh, I'm so excited. Like it was so much fun. But yeah, that was my experience, and it was more than grand.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, the World Outlaws, after that, they moved on to Kennedale, Texas this weekend, actually running, simultaneously with y'all's weekend down in Alabama. Gio Scelzi got his first win since last season. That was just a prelim night win at Knoxville. So, I mean, it's been 2 years since he's won a full fielded race, and that was a big win for him. That was
He's
night
in the
one.
top 5 in points, right?
He's near the top. I know that. And my championship pick, Buddy Kofoid,
Yeah.
won from third place on night number 2 at Kennedale. It was a 30-lap race that went went green to checkered without a caution. When those kind of races happen, that's when sprint cars are at their best, is when they're on a bull ring fighting with traffic. I don't know if you got to watch much battles in traffic at Magnolia, but we kind of had a conversation back, I think it was in our second episode, about watching sprint cars on a big track back when it seemed like they would never leave Volusia. And we had a conversation, and you're like, man, it's fun to watch, but they get so spread out and there's not a lot of action for the lead. And I was like,
Yeah,
just wait till they go to a small bull ring. That's when it's fun.
dude. And I didn't get to watch it because I was like, but I kind of want to go back now. But I know the minute I go back, there's going to be more. Because there's like 2 high limit races this week, and then we've got what we talked about. We talked about ASA this weekend. Obviously, we've got NASCAR going on, and I'm going to be at the beach with my fraternity formal, and I'm like, oh. That's one thing I realized about us doing the podcast is I love watching racing, but there's almost not enough time.
No, there is so much racing that happens, and that's my favorite thing about having the flow highlights. And
that's one thing probably your favorite about being graduated now. You got a ton of time.
That too. But the rapid replays on Dirt Vision and I know. And the highlights on Flow that are so fast. I mean, you can watch a whole race night in 10 minutes, and it's just a great way to stay in the loop.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of all I really have for dirt outside of high limit at Vegas. It was a pretty straightforward race. It was supposed to be a Thursday night show and a Saturday night show. Mother Nature had other plans, so it ended up being a Saturday night only show.
Did
I
they
don't know if
race
you
twice or they just race once?
They just raced once. They, I
Okay,
think, added a little bit of prize money to Saturday's night.
gotcha.
Um, how about Ty Gibbs's violent wreck?
Dude,
I know you saw
Timothy?
that.
Did you get to see that?
No, I didn't watch it.
Well, no, I'm
Ty,
talking about the highlight. I just saw the clip. Like
Yeah, no, I didn't see the
dude,
clip
it
at
was
all.
wild. It was a
it
big
was a
wreck.
rough hit. First turn 3 of lap 1 of his first ever A main, which he made his A main in his debut. So that goes to show that Ty Gibbs is having not the best year, but I mean to get in a car you've never raced before and make the A main with that tough of a field, impressive. But I mean it was a caution fest. There were so many just not wrecks, but just equipment failures, tire issues, just weird things that turned it into one of those races that became a war of attrition. And Darren Pittman was leading and ran out of gas with 5 to go.
That's crazy.
And
Oh, you told
Rico
me this
Abreu,
about because
yeah,
there were so many cautions.
yeah, and Rico Abreu ran out of gas as well. And so many cars started running out of gas. The high limit officials threw the red flag and had an open red and just said, "Hey, gas up your cars. We're gonna have a 5-lap dash to the finish." Corey Day held off Kyle Larson, which is always awesome to see one of your dirt guys, which I guess now Corey Day is kind of a NASCAR guy, but to see somebody who's still in his prime of his dirt career, hold off Kyle Larson, who is what a lot of people would say the best racer in the world right now, is just so fun to watch. And outside of sprint cars, super late models raced at Smoky Mountain. Bobby Pierce won Friday. Mother Nature won on Saturday night, and the race was rained out.
Yeah.
But it's time to go to our bonehead move of the week, which we really need a sponsor for, guys.
Dude, hey, come on. The B Main Podcast 2024 at
It's already
gmail.com.
on.
So,
Yeah, so
I guess
hit us up, and we can get your name on
hey,
2 segments, maybe even more.
come on. I guess I'll go first. Mine was Jet Noland in the Baby Rattler 125, making the big sin on the inside of Casey Roderick and turning him around for the lead. It sent them both to the back when it was 2 cars that absolutely could have won that race. And it wasn't like it was the last lap. They had about, I think it was 15 or 20 to go, Timothy. And it was just one of those where I think he was getting impatient. But it was your thoughts.
Well, it was 10 laps to go, I think he could have settled in and let Casey have the spot there. And as fast as his car was on the short run, I think he could have settled in and had another shot at
That's
him.
that's what I thought.
It's one of those things. He wasn't there. He wasn't on the door of Roderick. He was, 3 inches into his bumper, and it's just one of those things like you have to think about as a racer. Like it's just not worth it. Like you back out and get him the next corner. Like that's the thing that I would think about. But
one little nugget to throw onto this is I'm going to go ahead and congratulate Connor Jones for not being our bonehead of the week.
Hey, seriously. Well, it's because he's taking a break for the moment.
But no, give him a little shout out for it.
He wasn't in any of the races. He's racing this weekend in Pensacola, which I wish him all the best. Because I still, again, I'm happy he's decided to race different, and I hope that succeeds for him. Because But anyway, back to Jet. I just think like what you said, Timothy, of thinking about the big picture, and he went to the back, and they finished in the back because of that. Roderick pulled down to pit road, and gosh, he was fuming. Oh my goodness!
Well, as he should have been.
Oh, I would have been too. Oh my gosh!
He had a race taken from him there.
He had that race won.
He was, even if they wouldn't have had the caution, he'd have won by like 4 seconds.
Yes, he
had drove away.
Yeah.
And they just, they hit the nail on the head with the long run speed there. And when they would get going for 20, 30 laps, he was so much faster than anybody else. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. But that was mine. Who's next?
I'll let Gavin go next.
We had high limit crew chiefs. I just talked about it for a minute, but come on, guys. I know that you want to get. I know you want to get every ounce of speed out of the car, and I know that fuel weighs a lot. But when it's this early in the season, you know that there's kinks to be worked out with a lot of teams. You know there's going to be equipment failures. You know there's going to be tire issues, and there's most likely going to be wrecks. Put gas in the car. Don't put yourself in this situation. I get it. You're going to take every ounce of speed you can get out of the car, and you're going to take in for account for a few caution laps, but it's just you have to sit there and shake your head when you're Darren Pittman and you dominate the race only to get it taken away because you ran out of gas in a 15-mile long race.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I like what you said. It's early. It's the first race of the season. Like I would understand it if you're getting down in the points and you're getting close near the end of the season and you really want to start pushing things. But it's kind of what we mentioned about what we talked about with the tech DQs with all the asphalt stuff we've been seeing. This is on the side of being a little bit more conservative when it comes to strategy like that in terms of fuel and all that. It's the first race, so of what? How many? Like what? 52 races?
At least 50, between 50 and 60 races this year.
So
with that limit. So you have, I don't know. Everybody wants to be playoff Paul Wolf right now on their crew chief and decisions, I guess, and just making the best gas mileage possible. I don't know.
yeah, but Timothy.
Well, I've kind of been hung up on two, but I think I'm going to go with a less controversial. Well, actually, I think it would be more of a controversial opinion, but it's
Okay.
less than talking about another driver. But I think I'm going to go with the tower at the Rattler, not getting the 44 off the track when he was very obviously blowing up for about 5 laps. We saw smoke pouring out of the rear end of the car, and it eventually led to 2 cars that had a lot of speed getting taken out of the race, and
Yeah.
that being Michael Hind and I cannot think of the
can't
other
either.
car that was involved in that, but you see a car start to blow up. I mean, obviously at some point they're going to lay oil down on the track, and when you have cars racing that close, and I think it might be more of a personal thing for me because I was almost involved in that, but I mean, you need to just throw the caution, get the car off the track, or at least get somebody to look at the car and not just let them, blow up on track. And that could also fall in the hands of the 44 crew. They saw the car blowing up, and I know the driver felt a difference. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not there. You're
Smoke
not going to
doesn't
be
happen and
running.
you don't feel it unless it's a rub.
Yeah, exactly. And
Well, and that leads me to what I'm thinking is, you said it earlier. Mr. Randy was telling you that he had a tire rub. Well, you could obviously see differently from the car, but Mr. Randy was where a lot of the up in the stands where the tower would be. And so I gotta imagine that they might have thought the same thing he did, and that he was rubbing and something like that. Because when a car blows up, what we know is smoke pours out. Driver is way slow and like that. But it was weird for the 44 because it was a slow burn.
Yeah, it wasn't the motor going down. It was the rear end coming apart.
Which is why they probably thought it was a rub or something.
Yeah, and
so I think that's why. But I think I do agree with you in terms of what we can see now. It's just so difficult to think about in the moment.
Yeah, and it's my bonehead is gonna kind of be on both the tower and the whole crew of the 44. Well, not the whole crew, but the crew chief, the spotter, and the driver. I mean, it's something bad is happening, and let's just get off the track. Let's not ruin other people's day.
Well, and you got to think about what they have to do to fix that car now. Because if they'd have
Yeah.
pulled off, they might have
Mhm.
saved it.
Well, they could have saved some body damage, but the rear end was pretty toast to begin with.
Oh.
Well, and another thing is, like, we had just come in for the halfway break shortly before that, and I was smelling gear oil, and I had said something
That's
to
what that
Augie about
was?
it. Yeah, I said I'm smelling gear oil,
Oh.
and he said that he thought it was the 44, and
When a car's blowing up, you should smell it.
yeah, you can smell it. It is very noticeable.
Yeah. Well, I think it's definitely that's definitely a good bonehead of the week. Let's go on to our second one, badass move of the week. I'm not going to go first because I have forgotten mine. So one of y'all go and let me regain my thoughts.
Oh,
Go ahead, Gavin.
I guess y'all are gonna put me on the spot here.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Lando Norris, the F1 driver. I think this is the first time we've ever talked about F1 on the B.
It is the first
but
time.
It was absolute. It was an absolute downpour in Australia this weekend, and he held off Max Verstappen, which we talked about earlier. Corey Day holding off Kyle Larson. Max Verstappen is that other driver. You're like, he's the best driver in the world right now, and Lando Norris held him off in the wet, where the driver matters the most. Rain is the great equalizer, and Lando actually used it to his advantage to get his 5th career F1 win, first win of 2025, and McLaren now has a pretty sizable gap for the manufacturer for the constructors
Well,
championship. For
over
F1.
Red Bull, they're tied with Mercedes, though.
Yeah, they are tied for Mercedes. So
Well, I'm gonna
so that's it.
go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of fishing up. So that's just a huge advantage. Somebody other than Max Verstappen's leading F1 points for the first time in over 1,000 days, which for those of you who aren't that good at math, that's around 3 years.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. I just remembered mine, and it's going to go on with this topic. Mine was Oscar Piastri. You know, we're actually going to talk about the Grand Prix tonight after in just a little bit. But you know, we got to watch that race, and we'll talk about it. But Piastri spins after running second. He gets in the grass and gets stuck in the grass. Well, he works himself back up to P10. He passes Hamilton on the outside in one of the most daring moves I've ever seen in the rain. And you just go watch the clip. It was extremely impressive.
Yeah, and like you just said, holding off Max Verstappen, passing Lewis Hamilton. Like, what says badass move of the week more than that?
Exactly. So, Timothy?
I think I'm gonna say Michael Atwell leading flag to flag at the Rattler 250. I mean, it's never been done. That's a great feat to have. So, I mean, I just, you know, you can't. To me, you can't say that there was any better move of the week than that. It's one thing to bring, you know, a qualifying car versus a race car to the track, but they managed to bring both.
Yeah, it was impressive. I mean, again, like we said, quiet weekend. So that's going to lead us to our little NASCAR moment. We really said this, you know, we're honestly more excited to talk about the F1 race this week because of how interesting it was rather than NASCAR. And so we really said that NASCAR happened. Cindric got a penalty after Coda. Phoenix happened. Seabell won 3 in a row. The option tire was a thing. People loved it. Some people hated it. Who knows? Yeah, they're gonna get that. Then you got Alex Bowman and Amarola getting into it on the last lap. Then we go to Vegas this weekend. I don't even know what happened in the trucks in the Xfinity race. Cup race was awesome because, for me and Gavin, Joey was running up front and running with a lot of the race. And then Josh Berry gets his first ever win.
Yeah, that is a huge win for, not only is it Josh Berry's first win as a Cup Series driver, his crew chief, Miles, his last name's slipping my head right now. It's his first win as a crew chief and only his, I think, 5th race as a crew chief now.
Wow.
And he was one of the engineers on Joey's team for a long time, and I've kind of gotten to know him over the past several years, and he's somebody, I wouldn't say close to, but somebody I'm friends with. And I texted him after the win. I just texted him, "Hell yeah, brother," in all caps. I
Yeah.
just said, "Hell yeah, brother."
Well, and he was
So,
the first NASCAR Weekly Series champion, and really, and car store driver to win in a Cup Series race, and it shows you. I know Barry is a little bit older, but he is one of the most dominant drivers in the cars tour that has ever seen, and here he is, after getting a shot from Junior Motorsports. Finally getting to the Cup Series with this ride with the Stuart Haas last year and the Wood Brothers now, like he has already proved himself. Like I think Haas was just I hate to say this, but really with Tony Stewart being in and around and Gene Haas being focused on F1, I would say that and them saying they were shutting down for 6 months before the end of the season, I would say that Stuart Haas was really in the dump in terms of their performance and what they like it was just not a good environment in terms of, we know that our owners are focused on other things. Our team is trying to gather because we're closing. And so now that he's in a place of an established place that is not going anywhere, they're committed, they're whatever, like he has already got results, finished top 5 last week in Phoenix, goes out here, runs top 10 all day at Vegas. I don't think there was ever a point where he's outside of the top 10 and then ends it out with the win.
and another thing, if you don't like the Wood Brothers, you're not human. Like, it seems when you look at the Wood Brothers list of their drivers who have won races, their drivers who have been with them, the history of that team, they're just a team of, they're the good guys in NASCAR.
They are.
And they have been with NASCAR for as long as NASCAR has been a thing, and they really are like, they're NASCAR's good guys. And they're a team that everybody likes. It doesn't matter if you're not, they're not. If Josh Berry's not your favorite driver and the Wood Brothers aren't your favorite team, you like them. It doesn't matter if you're a Ford fan, Chevy fan, Toyota fan. It doesn't matter if you like only the old guys, only the young guys. If you're, a Bowman Larson fan, Hendrick. If you're a Denny Hamlin fan, if you're a Joey Logano fan, everybody loves the Wood Brothers. Everybody seemingly likes Josh Berry, and it's just when they win, everybody feels good, and it's good for the sport.
Yeah, it's great. Timothy, you got anything?
No, I don't think I have anything to add to that.
But yeah, NASCAR happened this weekend. Barry won. I think that was our best bit. Let's get on to our final segment. Let's get into the F1 race because, again, what we have said, we stick to grassroots racing and we jump to some NASCAR sometimes, but we do like to talk about IndyCar and F1 sometimes because we are still racing fans.
I know I'm fancy.
What?
I said I'm holding my pinky up so they know I'm fancy.
Right. But, look, what a season opener. Australia in the rain. First lap, 3 cars go out of the race. Sainz, Hadjar, and who was the other?
Jack Doohan.
Jack
Doohan. Yes.
Yeah.
So 3 cars go out. I was so sad about Sainz. I'm a big Sainz fan. At my core, I'm a Danny Rick fan. R.I.P. I'm crying. But
he's still alive. He's just not racing.
Well, I know. Yeah. For no one that knows, don't worry. But I've really moved. Like now that he's not racing, like Sainz, I think is one of my guys, and I just think that Ferrari, I just think they did not appreciate the talent they had in Carlos Sainz, and so I really hope that he is able to rise to the occasion. Williams, I mean, they've talked about already how much he has been able to improve the team, and we've seen it. They did great in the testing sessions. They did good through the first practice sessions. They qualified both the first time since 2005 that both Williams got to Q3.
That is impressive. I mean, that's 20 years.
Yeah. So, and it tells you how bad off Williams has been recently, and I really think that Carlos Sainz is going to be able to bring them back up. But when I think he said, I think it was something with the car, because he said something happened where the car just throttled up. Like, he didn't say that he stomped on it. I don't know what it was. But then they said, I saw this post, that Albon finished so well because Carlos Sainz was helping strategize with them.
I mean, what a teammate. And that's one of my favorite sometimes favorite, sometimes least favorite things about F1 is each driver shares a crew and
They
it's all
do.
one team. And it's so cool to see in a situation like that how they come together. And like
Yeah.
that's just something that's so different from every other motorsport that I really enjoy watching when watching an F1 race.
Yeah. Well, while all that was going on, McLaren is dominating. Lando started on pole. He held the lead through the first lap. He was able to do that. And then Oscar Piastri right there, we mentioned it in our Badass Move of the Week. Piastri and Lando, both halfway through the race, both went off at the same corner. And Lando was able to recover, but then Piastri spun in the grass. Like we said, eventually worked back to P9. But, I mean, so much was going on throughout this race, Gavin and Timothy.
Yeah, and in the middle of that, in the middle of 2 different rain showers, the skies brightened up and it
The
got
strategy
pretty
was
bright.
crazy.
And,
Yeah, they all went back to slicks.
Well,
yeah, and Max
but
Verstappen somehow ended up in the lead. And when you see Max Verstappen in the lead,
you're thinking,
and
oh
it was
no.
dry, Verstappen was in the lead. It was dry. I am watching the race on my phone. I start scrolling on Instagram and looking at other things, and I turn back ESPN on my phone. I'm like, what happened? What did I miss? It's raining again.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy thing was, like, when they did move to the slicks, like the only part of the racetrack was dry was the 2 tire lanes. Like, it was not even like a full lane. Like, the middle part where they don't run was also wet. Like, you had probably 4, like maybe half a foot of play in terms of your line, and if you stepped out of it, you were going for a spin. Like,
Yeah, and
it just
that's
shows
what's so
you.
impressive.
Yes, that's what I
about
was going to
Formula
say.
One is they know that once it gets that dry, that the slicks are going to be faster, so they just put it all on the driver,
Yeah.
and they give them the slicks and let them go and hope that they can keep it in the lines.
Yeah. When I saw that, like, I knew they were going to do it. I've watched Formula One, but I was like, that is so impressive. I mean, it takes so much skill. I mean, so much.
The precision that they have it's F1 drivers are surgeons, and then you have NASCAR drivers that are MMA fighters. And I don't think either of them would do it all good in the other profession.
No, they wouldn't.
Like, one is pure precision, and the other is just pure, and it's still very pure racing, but it's precision versus force.
Yeah. But I thought it was a really great race, especially for an opener for F1. And so, eventually Lando Norris goes on to win, taking down the points lead for Max Verstappen that went on for those 1,000 days. And I'm really excited to see the fight because I think that the Red Bull is falling off a little bit. They're struggling right now with Lawson. I think he's a great driver, but I just think he had a bad weekend. And when we took a break a minute ago, I saw something that I wanted to say. Like, I think Red Bull's problem, like, I think in the F1 world, you absolutely have to be harsh. Like, if you're as a driver not getting it done, well, let's find someone new. But I think, like, Red Bull has a mentality that scares drivers in terms of if they make a mistake, they might believe that's it for them. Like, when you're a rookie, you even not Lewis Hamilton still makes mistakes, but as a rookie, you're going to make mistakes. It's just about how the team organize you. Let's look at Logan Sargent for a little bit. Williams was very good with him. They were very graceful to him, very forgiving. They tried to continue to build him, but after a while they realized it wasn't. Now, do I think they should have let him go sooner? Yes. But they didn't say, oh, one mistake and you're gone. And so they tried to develop him, But here, Red Bull has created a mentality of you have to be up to par with Max Verstappen or we don't want you. And I think it's their Achilles heel is that second seat because drivers are actually so afraid that they're going to make more mistakes.
And another thing that I think might be their Achilles heel is Max Verstappen is so much of a generational talent. He's done nothing but cover up Red Bull's flaws.
For the last 100%.
And Red Bull doesn't know where their cars are weak because Verstappen was so good. And now that you have a rookie in the car, every little problem, every detail that isn't perfect is magnified by 100 times.
Yeah. So
And that's not a knock on Liam Lawson at all. He's great. I mean,
no.
if you make the show in F1, you're amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just how good Verstappen is. I think that is a weakness for Red Bull. And one thing I'm kind of interested to see is now that Verstappen's not leading the points, is how long that holds. If Lando's going to hold on the whole year, if Piastri's going to find ways to be as competitive as his teammate, if maybe one of the Ferrari guys, because I still think Lewis Hamilton's a top 2 or 3 driver on the grid.
I think he is, but I think he got his first dose this weekend of Ferrari's strategy problems.
Yes, but I still think that Ferrari is a good enough team.
They
Yeah.
are. I'm just a
I
little
think
biased because
No,
I
they're a top
believe
3 team.
I'm just a little biased because I think here's my thought. Yes, Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion. If you have the opportunity to get him, I get it. But here's the thing. Hamilton will not be that good for that much longer. He's, 42, 44 years old? Like, he's going to fall off at some point. It's impressive to see where he's at, but here's the thing. Carlos Sainz, he could drive in a prime for 10 more years, and I'm interested to see how the season continues on because you can't base it off one race. But I want to see if they're better off with Hamilton than Sainz, or if they are not as good and they just should have kept Sainz. Because I'm kind of biased and want Hamilton to not do so good, so that Ferrari realize their mistake.
I've done nothing but have takes that will turn into infamous sound bites for the show's entire
I know,
existence.
dude.
So
They
I
will.
might make another one here. 1 year of Lewis Hamilton is better than anyone's prime on the grid other than Verstappen and Alonso.
That's crazy.
That's kind of my thought, is because
Really?
the knowledge and experience that he's going to bring to that team.
But it's if they'll listen to him.
He may.
Okay.
Well,
how about
that
this?
They don't
that's true.
because here's the
but-
thing. Like, think about Sainz. Like Williams have talked so much about how they're listening to Williams is listening to Sainz. When Sainz was at Ferrari, they never listened to him.
Yeah, that is true, but they might be looking at it in terms of, if Lewis says something that, he's going to be right about it because he's a 7-time world champion.
Right.
Whereas when Sainz said something, it was just like, oh, this guy,
He's won 5 races.
Yeah, he hasn't done very much, and he's trying to tell us what to do. But it and this
I
is
do
kind of
agree
what
with
I'm
that.
hoping, because I do like Carlos Sainz as well. But I'm kind of hoping that, because I'm pretty sure Hamilton is retiring after this year.
What?
Or he will finish his retirement with Ferrari.
Okay,
Yes,
I'll believe that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think he's going anywhere else.
I don't know if it's this year, but it's coming in the next
It
couple
is
years.
coming up. Yeah.
But
We say that, and how old's Alonso? And he's still racing.
yeah, but Alonso's different. He's still a rookie. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that, well, I hope that they bring Sainz back eventually.
Yeah,
But
I do too.
that's just wishful thinking. But it could go the different direction where Mercedes picks up Sainz and he gets his he is really able to shine.
I mean, unless George Russell falls off or something, because look, Kimmy's a rookie, but he's going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But talk about a strong opening.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you also see a lot of the Williams drivers go to Mercedes
That is
eventually.
true. I do agree with that.
Even like I believe Bottas was
Bottas
great
was,
in
yeah.
and he was great, but they replaced him with
Russell.
Russell, yeah. But they replaced him with him, and I don't exactly think that was the correct move, but
I agree.
they did it, and we might see that later on with either Russell or Kimmy, where they replace one of them with Sainz, because Russell came from Williams as well, so
Yeah.
Hey, Yuki Tsunoda.
Dude.
Yuki did very
Well, and that's one of those things. Like, I don't know. Like I like Yuki.
I'm a big Yuki fan.
I like Yuki, but I just don't know. I just feel he's been somewhat inconsistent sometimes. But how do I
But I mean,
say? I don't know.
he may
There's just something
may
where I
be
just don't believe he is that guy that is going to go out in the Red Bull's second seat and perform very. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I have any basis to
he's in
my
right now
idea.
might be better than the Red Bull second seat.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I mean,
that's true.
Now that car, I saw a joke. It obviously wasn't real, but I saw a joke about him moving Verstappen to that car because it's faster.
Yeah, I saw the same deal, but
That's
Did y'all
funny.
see the Leclerc
Well-
joke?
no.
No.
Oh, yes, you did, Gavin, because you posted it.
Oh, that
Oh.
wasn't a joke. That was real.
Yeah, that was real. That was
Oh.
something real that happened.
Oh, no, I know. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought you were said the joke, and I was like, "What joke?" And I was like, "Oh no,
No, I was talking about the real thing.
something's leaking. You think it's the water?
You
Well,
think it's the
wet."
water? Golly, that was hilarious. Timothy, what were you about to say?
Oh, I forgot. I think I was going to add on to that what y'all were just saying.
Oh, my bad. But there's a lot of things that I think we're gonna have to wait to see.
Yeah, it's all, speculation.
But
We don't know. And
The most
especially with
interested
Red
I've been
Bull.
in F1 in forever, though.
Yeah, Red Bull is so well, they're just hard on their rookies.
yeah,
I mean,
I
you've
think
seen the
too
past
hard.
several years that they've, either moved them down to, well, I still call it Toro Rosso, but Racing Bulls, they just move their second seat down, or they just completely get rid of them
Yeah.
and replace them with somebody else.
Well,
so.
and talking about that, like I think like them letting go Alex Albon was a huge mistake
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
I think
I'd
they
agree
could
with
have
that.
developed Albon into an excellent driver. I still think he's great, but I think he's kind of not flatlined, but I think he's kind of plateaued with Williams right now. Like I think he's been their lead driver over Logan Sargent and some of the other guys they've had, but hopefully now maybe he can learn from Sainz because I like Albon. But I think there's a lot that we're gonna have to wait to see from the season because I'm excited that we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, and speaking of waiting and speaking of moving drivers around, Cadillac will be on the grid in
They will.
2026,
They will.
and I'm so excited for that. What
It's gonna be
route do you
dope.
think they're gonna go? What route do you think they're gonna go for filling those two seats? Do you think they're gonna go the F2 sign two young drivers route, or they gonna find drivers who are more mid to the back of the grid free agents, or are they gonna go the IndyCar route and maybe snag an American or two?
Well, what's his? I can tell you that so many people have asked Colton Herta about that, and he told me or not told me. I wasn't
told
talking to him. Told the media that he was like, I didn't even know until someone told me where I needed to finish this season to get my super license. Like he was like, I'm not thinking about F1. Like I've set out to win the Indy 500 and do these other things. So he didn't say no, but I can tell you that he's not jumping for the chance. So I don't know about Colton Herta. I think they're definitely going to pull from maybe an F2, but I don't think they're going to pull two rookies. I think even with Cadillac just being a new team, they need a driver who has been there before, who can mentor like all this stuff.
How about Alex Palou, who's already eligible for his super license?
I don't know. But some people were talking about Danny Rick, and I think Danny Rick is done. I don't think he doesn't have the talent. I just think he might have put this chapter of his life away. But I think they will probably get an experienced driver and a rookie.
I'm interested to see who the rookie is, though. I'm interested to see if it's from F2.
I haven't looked at the F2 field, so I
haven't
don't
looked
know.
at the F2 field. I'm just interested to see if they go the F2 route or if they go the IndyCar route. Because I would love to see. This is like my fantasy who I want to see race in F1. I want to see Joseph Newgarden race in F1 so bad. I don't know if he's eligible for a super
Probably
license.
is.
But the hill that I'm going to die on is that he's the best open wheel racing American that we've probably had since Mario Andretti.
Yeah, he is good.
And I mean, he's so good. And I think he has all the right tools to be a celebrity F1 driver. You know how they have. There's just something about F1 drivers that they have that little extra star power. I think he has that. He has the biggest wins, and I think he can do it. I've seen him go head to head with Palou and win. I've seen him go head to head with Herta and win. And I don't know why he can't go over to F1 and fit on the grid, because obviously
Yeah.
Cadillac's not going to be at the top their first year. They're probably, if they're lucky, they might earn a handful of points in their first year. Like,
Yeah.
I think that should be their goal, is to score points once. So you have to have somebody who, I think Joseph Newgarden has all the tools. And here's another driver that I think is eligible for the super license, who it's totally not going to be. I just love making the joke to him, is Joey is eligible. Joey Logano is eligible for a super license.
Is he really?
Yeah, he has the 2 NASCAR championships in 3 years, so he has the points for a super license.
No freaking way.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you get 35 points for winning the NASCAR Cup Series championship, and you need 40 to be eligible.
And your points last for 3 years.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So
I had no idea
that he can use. He's obviously not gonna. I mean,
No.
It's just so funny. I've made the joke to him a handful of times, like, you can go race F1. It's like, no, I'm not.
That's so.
It's just a
that's
funny joke I like to
hilarious.
make to him, is he's eligible for a super license.
I didn't even know that. That's funny. But Timothy, anything else?
No, I really don't have anything else to add to that.
Well, I think that is probably going to do it for us here on episode number 5. Again, if you want to put your name on our podcast, any of our sections, or just a general sponsorship, our email is thebmainpodcast2024@gmail.com. Please email us with inquiries. Gavin checks that. We're excited for what is up and coming. We'll have you back in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about the ASA race this weekend, probably more high limit, World of Outlaws stuff, more NASCAR stuff, and all these things to come.
Time period.
What?
I think the car steer is going to be back on track in that time
Yes,
period.
I believe they will. I think it's Wake County.
A lot of coverage from this, and I think maybe we're going to have somebody.
We should have who was it?
We should have Chase Burrow back.
Yes.
He lost his voice last week, wasn't able to come on. We messaged back and forth, and he still wants to come on. So we're going to try to get him on next week to talk about everything that goes on in the next Cars Tour race. We're going to have our first guest in over a month, so I'm super excited to have somebody back on, and hopefully that we just have a good 2 weeks of racing, because, man, this race season is so exciting for me. This is the most in-depth I've watched races as a race fan. Actually taking notes as I'm watching races has made me notice the little things that I don't notice before. I don't know about you, Scott, but I'm starting to notice more details in different drivers.
Oh, yeah.
And things they do. And I think it's making me a better race fan, having this conversation every 2 weeks.
No, I fully agree. So, but yeah, we'll sign off for this week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
I see ya.